Is all part of a museum traveling, well, not specifically museum, but a traveling exhibition that started last year that was managed by Les of Arts South Africa. And that went from the Slave Lodge in Cape Town to University of Stellenbosch. It was in Pretoria Art Museum, it was at Grahamstown as part of the main festival program. And so this is the final home for this body of work, and it was extended by Keith for this specific space. And the initial body of work that was part of the travelling show looked at specifically South African history in connection with slavery around 16th to 18th century Cape Town. And he took a similar style of documentation and a layering of history and individuals into the extended body of works which look at his ancestry, well, German descent, and some of his family members were actually killed in concentration camps. So he looks at documenting certain lives that were taken during Nazi Germany in concentration camps. And then he did a bit of a contemporary look at Germany from World War II to today. So he did a bit of a walk through the city and took his own personal images, and then he juxtaposed and layered that onto historical images of Germany around World War II. And so the extended body of work looks to kind of reconcile this history with the present through the images that he's created. There's certain religious iconography and symbolism that comes out in the work. I mean, the cross as well. And, you know, these are life-size works. So it also gives this the sense of a tomb of the cross. So there's a lot of like layered symbolism in the work. And I know with Keith as well, he's specifically chosen to use very fragile materials with the paper and the tracing paper to give a sense of fragility of history, the fragility of life. And I mean, Keith is quite academic in that sense, that he continues the layering, the meaning process into all of those, into the process of the making of the work. I think part of doing this was about the fact that history is an edited, constructed thing, and it's given from a certain point of view. And I think for him, his interest in slavery and the documentation of this is about a retelling of history or a re-acknowledgement of history and what happened. He said himself, it took him a lot of time to collect the data and the research, but then also himself having to be that kind of influence and editor over history and over what happened, and then he had to edit a lot down just because you can't deal with that dense amount of knowledge and information. But yeah, he's very aware of those kind of dialogues when it comes to history and who tells history and who documents and how do we document and how do we portray what has happened. It's important people engage, and I mean the walkabout was an interesting experience of people asking questions and saying, oh, I didn't know that, or I didn't know this is what happened, I didn't know, which is a little bit scary, but at the same time good to ask questions and say that I don't know. I think slavery is a big part of a South African context, of South African history, of South African development, and part of him doing this body of work was about acknowledging that this is something that happened, and it's about individuals. It's not about a grand narrative of a history, it's about individuals and things that happened to individuals and groups and how it kind of became the fabric of our country.